Button. All right. Okay, well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Ask the Doctor. Tonight, we're going to learn some tips on how to breathe easy and optimize your respiratory function. We are super blessed to have amazing Dr. Bob Rakowski here with us. He teaches, trains, lectures doctors all over the world, and we get to hear from him firsthand, which is awesome. And then at the end, don't forget to have your questions typed in the chat so that he can answer those questions for you. Are you ready to go, Dr. Bob?
I am ready. Happy, beautiful evening, all. And Carol, always thank you for setting everything up, running the show so beautifully, and reminding me to record. That's important too. So even though our topic is strategies to breathe optimally, breathe easy, get oxygen to your cells and tissues, we also will address whatever questions come up. So any question can be fair game. A little background on me, first and foremost, I'm a family man. I've got a beautiful wife of 33 years, three great kids, two grandchildren, and everybody's happy, healthy, and balanced, I'm happy to say. I've been in clinical practice now for nearly 30 years. I've treated world champions from every major professional sport, lots of Olympians, gold medal winners. That's kind of fun. I've also taught over 10,000 hours of seminars to doctors around the world. I happened to be on a stage giving a lecture about cancer. And realistically, we've done some Zooms on cancer, and cancer starts when conditions are right in the body for cancer to occur. And really, we can solve that circumstance by changing those conditions. And we talk strategies to do that. I also co-lectured about 7 years ago at a major conference with this doctor, Dr. Dale Bredesen. He was presenting his preliminary research on Alzheimer's, and he wrote a book, The End of Alzheimer's. And basically, he's identified some major risk factors for Alzheimer's, all of which are modifiable by lifestyle and nutrition. But what
Dr.
he would
Bob,
teach, yes?
sorry to interrupt. You sound a little far away.
You know, I've got a microphone that is kind of hanging. I didn't want it in front of my camera. Is this better? Now
We can hear you. We can hear you better, but now we can't see you.
How about here?
Much better.
Okay, it's in front of my screen. I have to figure out how to mount that in a way that works. I saw Casey Nielsen Martin log in, and she sent me this beautiful gift when I was having microphone problems. But maybe if I put it here, how's this? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, we'll keep it there. All right, so I show the picture of this foot because what happened with this foot can happen with the brain, can happen with the lungs, can happen with the liver, the kidneys, the heart, etc. Whenever there's an organ problem, there are three distinct zones of cells. There are cells that are dead. Well, there's nothing we can do about those. There's cells that are fine. There's nothing we need to do about those. But in between are cells that are functional but not functioning. And what Dr. Bredesen found is there's plenty of cells in that category in most Alzheimer's patients. And as you get function back to those cells, they get memory back. So this foot was scheduled to be amputated 2 days from the time that picture was taken. If I were to blow it up, you'd see really bad gangrene. But look at the foot 2 weeks later, and then look at the foot 17 months later. She never had a surgery. The dead tissue fell off, and quite frankly, all the doctors were beyond amazed. But we can add value and life to cells if we do the right thing. I'm going to share this pyramid for a moment because there's a story behind it. In about the year 2000, I co-lectured with Dr. Barry Sears in Orlando, Florida, and he wrote a famous book called The Zone. And he put up the USDA food pyramid, and he said, if ever there was a terrorist-like plot designed to destroy the health of the world, this would be it. 9 to 11 servings of genetically modified gluten grains and processed carbohydrates at the base. So I decided to create a life pyramid and a nutrition pyramid. So the base of my nutrition pyramid is nature's foods, God's foods, if you will. If God made it, it's okay. If man made it, stay away. And that's a quote from Jack LaLanne. After nature's foods, we have superfoods. And what's a superfood? It's got all the fabulous 50, all the vitamins, minerals, amino acids, proteins, carbohydrates, fat, fiber, and water, and at doses that make a difference, a significant difference to human health. Functional foods are things that are actually approved by the FDA to manage health conditions. Then we go with the multivitamin, multimineral, omega-3s, probiotics, and a combination of D3, K2. And so if you want to know my protocol for nutrition, this is it. But we emphasize certain areas more than others, really depending upon the patient. So I think most of us know this. These are the threes of survival. You can only survive 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without shelter. Now, that would be in an extreme place. 3 days without water, 30 days without food. All those have threes in it. And when we breathe in, it's amazing how few people actually breathe properly. They do show air better through the nose. The diaphragm moves down, and as it does, the abdomen should actually expand outward. And then basically you're going to exhale. You would be amazed at how important proper breathing can be for your health and wellness. And this is a Navy SEAL, Mark Devine, and he actually talks about this process called box breathing. It helps your mind focus. It actually calms your body very substantially. And he was in a very intense battle circumstance where he couldn't afford to make any mistake at all. And he said box breathing just kept him alive. So he would inhale for a count of 5 through the nose, preferably. You're going to hold it for a count of 5. You're going to exhale through the mouth for a count of 5. And then you're going to hold the exhale for a count of 5. You might want to play with that, but if that's actually each count is 1 second, it would only be 3 breaths in a minute. And with practice and diligence, you can get down to 3 breaths a minute. What you're going to find is your body's much less stressed, your cardiovascular system becomes much more efficient, and there are a lot of things that get better. But now we're going to talk about my favorite superfood. It's called Ganoderma lucidum. And there's 76 specific studies about Ganoderma lucidum and the lungs. Notice that actually the first thing they talk about is Ganoderma lucidum and lung cancer. And we'll ultimately get to that because that's going to be an extreme lung condition, but we'll start with more common issues later. Ganoderma is known as the herb of immortality. And notice this medical study says it has definite anti-aging properties. Antioxidation means it keeps us from rusting out on the inside. Immunomodulation, that's going to be very important, and I'm going to talk about that quite a bit. Anti-neurodegeneration, it preserves your brain and nervous system. That's pretty powerful too. But with the lungs, we're going to talk especially about immune modulation. Here's another study that talks about Ganoderma for airway inflammation, which basically that is what the medical condition asthma is. And they call, again, Ganoderma an immune modulator. So I like the story of Goldilocks and the 3 bears. You know, when she was trying the porridge, one was too hot, one was too cold, one was just right. When she was sitting on the chairs, one was too big, one was too small, one was just right. When she was sleeping in the beds, one was too hard, one was too soft, one was just right. And ultimately, what we want to do with our immune system is create just the right response for what's happening in our body. And as an immunomodulator, Ganoderma moves it into the just right direction, no matter what is happening in the body. So let's talk about too much immune reaction. If there's too much immune reaction to particles outside your body, well, we call that an allergy. If there's too much immune reaction to cells within your body, we call that autoimmunity. If there's not enough defense from things coming in from outside of the body, we get an infection, cold, flu, virus, whatever. If there's not enough defense on the inside, we get cancer. And it's generally accepted that nearly everybody, and I mean 99.99% of people, develop somewhere between 500 and 1,000 cancer cells a day. So think about this. If your immune system is weak, it picks it up. If your immune system is weak against foreign invaders, it picks it up. If it's overreactive against pollens, it calms it down. If it's overreactive against your cells, it calms it down. And that is proven through numerous medical studies. So now we'll go with allergy. 33 different medical citations about Ganoderma and allergy. That will certainly have an impact on your airways. And this is a fun story. This is Fire Captain Brian Figuera, his beautiful wife, Francesca. They were on a late night flight, and Brian is a decorated national hero and a phenomenal public servant. Whenever he gets on a plane, he introduces himself to the flight crew. And he says, hey, listen, I've got emergency medical background. I also have airport experience. If you need anything, please call on me. So on this particular flight, Flight attendant, tapped on his shoulder about 2 o'clock in the morning and said, look, we have so, someone here who's having a hard time breathing. And, she doesn't have an EpiPen. Could you do anything for her? And he thought very, very fast. He says, well, I've got King of Coffee. It's got Ganoderma in it. That's an immunomodulator. It's really good for the airways. Let's see what we can do. He gave it to her in a small cup of coffee, not too hot so she could chug it. And within minutes, she was breathing normally. This is another similar story. She was highly allergic to bee stings, got stung by 5 bees in the face, and she happened to walk into Dr. Justin Wubin's office. And, interestingly enough, she didn't drink coffee or tea, but he had hot chocolate on hand as well. Gave her a hot chocolate. Within moments of drinking it, her pupils started dilating less, her swelling started going down, and she started breathing easier. When you look at asthma around the world, you can see that the Western world has a lot more, and Australia's got quite a bit as well. And so what we know is that our diets tend to be a lot more inflammatory in this part of the world, a lot more processed, a lot more simple starches, and those are problematic for health and for asthma. 15 specific studies on Ganoderma lucidum and asthma, so we're focusing on that superfood. Regular food, when you eat an anti-inflammatory diet, awesome. When you do Ganoderma, it modulates the inflammatory process much, much faster. So this medical study, and if you ever want to look them up, you can just type in PubMed ID : PMID : 249-48193, and you'll find within that study, it says that Ganoderma helps airway inflammation, allergies, and asthma. And another study, I don't know if I put it in this one or not, but it actually dilates airways by more mechanisms than prescription inhalers. Only 4 studies on pneumonia, but the person who requested this topic, and people can request any topic they want, he actually had a severe bout of pneumonia several years ago. And, his family reached out to me and said, what do we do? I said, give him, 2 Ganoderma spores every waking hour. They did that, and he put that pneumonia to rest very, very fast. There are 430 unique molecules within Ganoderma, 79 of which are powerfully antimicrobial and anti-infective. And this is an interesting first line to a forward of a book that I wrote probably about 30 years ago. The book is entitled Herbal Virtues. And the first line is, there's a synergy in nature that cannot be duplicated and cannot be isolated. So it's fascinating that in medical literature, they get a nice plant like Ganoderma and they try to isolate a compound and study the compound. But we know that the whole plant is much, much better and more powerful than the parts. The reason they do that is you can't patent a molecule of nature, but if they find out what works, then they can synthesize it in the lab, tweak it just a little bit, and patent it. And that, by the way, is how I think it's 80 to 90% of drugs are derived from plants. When you look at Ganoderma as an antimicrobial, 32 different medical studies, 310 as an antifungal. So isn't that interesting that Ganoderma is in the family of fungus, but it's the fungus that actually kills fungus. Very powerful that way. And I happen to be seeing a lot more of this in my clinic. This is a skin fungus. And again, Ganoderma has powerful antifungal properties. When you look at parasites, 5 different there. So we're getting after the major things that it can kill, and 74 studies as an antiviral. And I often ask people, if you switch to organo coffee, which by the way is probably the most easy and consistent way if you're a coffee drinker, otherwise you might do tea or shakes or something like that, do you get fewer colds and flus? And, when I ask people that, they sit back and go, wow, you know what? I haven't been sick since I started drinking this. Well, how fascinating is that? So now we go down the chain of more severe lung conditions. This medical study says that it's literally been used for centuries to treat chronic bronchitis. This is a healthy bronchus, right? That's a major air tube. It's got a mucus lining, but look at the unhealthy one. Lots of extra mucus, lots of thinning of the airways. And there's a lot of problems that can happen with that, especially a breeding ground for infection. And then the final 2 studies I'll share are about lung cancer. So it actually regulates the gene expression that makes the cancer less aggressive. Apoptosis is actually a fancy name for cellular suicide. The lung cancer cells commit suicide, and autophagy is literally the body eating the lung cancer. So how fascinating is that? And this product reference here says various chemical properties exhibit anti-cancer properties, and they talk about a bunch of properties that are basically existent in all cancer cells. So it seems that it would be a universal anti-cancer. A final note, coffee has more than 30 different acids, and we have a patented preparation method that actually minimizes the coffee's acids. And that's better for us, right? Because acids don't do a lot of good in our body. In fact, they steal from health, and they also would, if they were present, decrease the efficacy. So when you look at the reason why people make food choices, it's got to taste good, it's got to be affordable, it's got to be convenient. Our products are all that and turbocharged, and it's safe even for pregnant women. So if you were to go back and look at the picture of my family, my beautiful daughter-in-law, both moms consume Ganoderma multiple times daily throughout pregnancy, had great pregnancies and beautiful children. And you want to get the real deal. Some people grow their Ganoderma in plastic bags. And so if you look at compounding health at its best, 3.3 cups of coffee a day, each one moving your health in a better direction over 1,200 times a year. It seems like my slides are slightly out of sequence. I don't know how that got there, but when you look at the reason that people make food choices, these are universal across the globe. And we have that. Coffee is consumed to 2.25 billion cups a day. We're going to go to questions and answers, and two questions were sent in ahead of time, so I'm going to go to those, and I created slides. Someone asked me if I would cover fibromyalgia, and so this is from what the medical literature says. It's chronic, and they don't know what causes it, and it causes widespread musculoskeletal pain and lots of other problems there. Now, since medicine doesn't know what causes it, they also have a hard time helping it. So sadly, there's a very strong link between fibromyalgia and depression. You know, if you think you've got this thing taking over your body and no one has a solution, well, you might feel hopeless. And I'll tell you what, if you don't feel like your future is any better than suffering in pain and fatigue and depressed, that doesn't paint a rosy future for you. So here's a medical study that shows that Ganoderma dramatically reduced the pain of fibromyalgia in just 6 weeks. They also had improved range of motion, improved quality of life, and things like that. So it is proven against fibromyalgia. And by the way, I happen to see in my office that these people have severe issues with detoxification. They don't clear toxins very effectively. Toxins aggravate the inflammatory process, so a good detox is helpful. Drugs, on the other hand, sadly increase the toxic burden on the body. Ganoderma modulates the inflammatory process by at least 13 proven mechanisms, more being added all the time. And this was a double-blind placebo-controlled trial. I like to share it because it was more powerful for pain relief than the top drugs for rheumatoid arthritis. Consider that those drugs are profoundly addictive, have a lot of severe side effects, whereas there's literally hundreds of side benefits to Ganoderma. And then I have a beautiful friend, Casey Nielsen Martin, who I will ask if you can to unmute yourself and maybe share why I'm putting this picture on the screen.
Dr. Bob, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Oh, I'd love to see you too, if that's possible.
Let's see.
You got to turn your camera on.
There we are.
There you are. And I'm going to peek in the middle if you're good with that.
Thank you so much for doing these calls. I learn so much every Tuesday, and every Tuesday I get so excited about what we get to offer to the world. And I was talking to your beautiful wife this morning, and I shared a story with her about how simple and easy it is to share Ganoderma when it's in a cup of coffee. Good friends of ours, Dan and Rebecca Miller from Wisconsin, just an amazing couple with huge hearts. And they are from the Amish community. So they don't utilize technology. They don't have a computer, and they don't have a cell phone. So people ask me, like, Casey, can you build this business if you're maybe have a few things working against you? Like maybe you don't have the best skills in this area, or maybe you're not super good on social media. how could you help people? Well, Dan and Rebecca, without a computer, no cell phone, they did a booth this past weekend. And in 2 days, they sold $27,000 worth of Ganoderma and had 10 new partners enroll. Now, Rebecca literally goes to the library to do her enrollments, and she works very closely with Anna Klein-Saucer, and they help so many people. And these stories were motivated because one of their customers shared the coffee with a friend who also became a customer because his son, she couldn't remember if he was in 2nd grade or in 4th grade, but he was struggling in school. Like his grades were horrible, wasn't doing well. So the customer said, well, I drink this stuff and it's good for me. Maybe it'll be good for him too. And he got his hands on some hot chocolate and green tea. And at the PTA, they had a parent teacher conference and the teacher was floored. What are you doing with him? He's so much more focused. He's paying attention. His grades are better. And it's only been a week. And so being able to help people, we have people who don't know anything about Ganoderma, customers who share a cup of coffee with someone else, and it changes their lives. And I'm just so proud of someone who removes all excuses, no computer, no social media, no cell phone. And in 2 days, they're selling $27,000 worth of Ganoderma. It's amazing. And they listen every single Tuesday. They're listening right now. So thank you for all that you do to continue to promote natural solutions to problems that so many people are struggling with.
Thank you for sharing the beautiful testimonial. Congratulations. That is epic, to say the least. And you're right. Sometimes, you know, we might think we have a challenge because we have to get on social media and reach out to people, or, you know, pick up our cell phone a few times. They don't have that challenge, do they? And look at how successful they are. So my standard answer, and we live in a very interesting world. If you haven't paid too much attention to that recently, what you'll know is that we are actually limited and regulated on what we can say. So I can share medical literature about what Ganoderma does. I can tell you that our products have the highest quality USDA certified organic Ganoderma with 2 patented processes to ensure the highest nutrient delivery. But I can't tell you that our products can help anything. I can tell you that our coffee is healthier. So that's just the world we live in. But, you know, the body that drinks it says, I know it's healthier. And they just continue to get better. So Carol, do we have some questions?
Yes, you were going to get to the second question we had about metformin.
Yes, thank you for that. So there's a liver enzyme that's involved in the liver actually increasing blood sugar. There's a process in the body called gluconeogenesis. The body can make sugar from amino acids. I'm going to get a little nerdy on you in a moment. So we actually do not have any requirement at all for carbohydrate, none. Protein comes from the Greek word, which means of primary importance, and proteins are made of amino acids, and there's 2 major categories of amino acids. There are what are called glucogenic amino acids. You can make sugar from amino acids. There are ketogenic amino acids. You can make fat from amino acids. However, you cannot make omega-3 fats or omega-6 fats, so those are the 2 essential fats. But you can make all of the carbohydrate that you want, and so a ketogenic diet is, you know, has a good amount of fat, a good amount of protein, and very, very little carbohydrate because we don't need it. Well, people that have diabetes, they have a hard time getting the sugar into their cells. So the liver starts making more sugar. And it does it with an enzyme that has the abbreviation PEPCK. Well, there's a medical study that shows that Ganoderma modulates that same enzyme. So basically it works by the exact same mechanism of metformin. Metformin has 2 pages of side effects for it, like most drugs do. And Ganoderma has thousands of medical studies of side benefits, including immune modulation, neuro improvement, improved circulation, decreased abnormal blood clotting, anti-infective, alkalizing the body, modulating the inflammatory process by 12+ mechanisms, and on and on and on. So it seems that this would be a really good first choice. Now, do diabetics occasionally need medicine? Sometimes they do. Sometimes they're in an extreme case where they need more. But the typical diabetic in my office, type 2 that is non-diabetic in 60 days. And the medical literature has described already what they call long-lasting remission of type 1 diabetes. You can look up that PubMed study by that title, where a guy was in remission 5 years, even with type 1. So it's fascinating how the world is progressing. So Ganoderma is a great option.
Awesome. Can Ganoderma help clear out your lungs from smoking?
If the cells are not dead, right? So 3 distinct zones of cells. There are cells that are dead. We can't do anything about that. Cells that are fine. We don't need to do anything about that. If the cells are functional but not functioning, then we can improve function. And we do that by lots of different mechanisms. It's a very powerful detoxification agent, anti-inflammatory agent, antioxidizing agent, alkalizing agent, and tissue regenerative agent. So lots of mechanisms by which it can help. But
Perfect.
quit smoking, right? Quit.
Quit smoking is a good thing to say too.
Not
Not easy, but it can be done.
World Health Organization says smoking kills 1 in 2 smokers. And then they don't
Wow.
talk about secondhand smoke. Secondhand smoke kills a lot of people too. So we just don't want to do that.
Okay. So one of our friends has a client who has a genetic defect where the artery going into the heart is enlarged. Our coffee and capsules caused her high blood pressure. Any suggestions? I don't know that would be our capsules, would it?
I don't think it would be either. That's pretty interesting because there are numerous blood pressure studies on Ganoderma, and there's at least 3 mechanisms by which it lowers blood pressure. It's a natural, what we call ACE inhibitor, angiotensin converting 2 enzyme inhibitor. It actually is a good source of nitrate, which becomes nitric oxide, which dilates the blood vessels, and it actually drives the parasympathetic nervous system, which relaxes things. So we've got 3 proven mechanisms by which it would lower high blood pressure. Now, it is an adaptogen. So for instance, if pressure was too low and they weren't getting oxygen to the brain, that might be a circumstance where there may be a slight increase, but nothing pathologic, that's for sure.
Okay. Allison has someone who has arthritis and would like to try our products. He loves green tea, but would you also recommend the spores or grapeseed as well to go with that?
If you want faster results, yes. So bodies respond to frequency, duration, intensity, quality, and timing of stimuli. I had a fun consult today with a gentleman who had some of the most extreme lab values I'd ever seen. And we put him on a 10-day protocol where he did spores every waking hour and a few other things, but literally a number that hadn't moved in his biochemistry in years, we cut it by 50% in 10 days. And he was beyond shocked. He said, how is this even possible? My doctors have been trying this to help this for more than a decade. And in 10 days, we made the difference. Well, we dotted the right I's and crossed the right T's, and that can happen.
Okay. Does the Reishi mushroom green tea have any negative interactions with medications? And they've listed a couple. And are there benefits for these teas for people who have chronic tonic seizures?
So 1, there's no known drug interaction, no known toxicity. So that part is really, really good. And then there are several studies on Ganoderma having anti-seizure benefits. So you go to PubMed, type in Ganoderma lucidum and anti-seizure. You can find the studies if you want. We've had plenty of seizure cases that have responded beautifully. A ketogenic diet is also very good for seizures. In fact, that's really where it was studied. They found out that 1/3 of seizure cases can resolve just with a ketogenic diet. So very powerful there.
Okay. Can Ganoderma work with cystic ovaries?
So the 3 major issues with cystic ovaries are going to be insulin resistance. Ganoderma is great for that. Estrogen toxicity. Ganoderma is great for that. And obesity, and Ganoderma produces fat loss by at least 6 different mechanisms. So in theory, it should, even though I hadn't read that study. So I would definitely give it a shot. Yeah.
Okay. And Grace would like to know if spores in red tea can also help young adults with ADHD.
So there's one European study, they don't call it ADHD, but they give it a different name in terms of decreased children and being able to have focus. I can't believe the last time I checked, they still didn't have an ADHD study, but notice that the testimonial was given of someone who was doing really well in school, after being given a hot chocolate, and we've seen plenty of those. So, can it help kids focus? Sure, absolutely, it can. Can we make a claim about a defined disease condition like ADHD? We can't. Cannot. Only a drug can help that, according to the authorities. Yes.
Is it okay?
Huh?
Sorry. Is it okay to take spores if you have macular degeneration?
Absolutely. I would take a bunch of it.
Just reading along, a lot of thank yous. What does this do for chronic pain? Polyneuropathy, and you already listed fibromyalgia.
Well, same mechanism. Chronic pain is the pain is being stimulated by, something called nociceptive pain receptors, which is chemical mediators. And go back to the study where I said Ganoderma was better for pain, even in the case of rheumatoid arthritis, and beat the best drug for the condition. So pretty powerful there. We showed the study on fibromyalgia. Polyneuropathy, in that anti-aging study, it actually shows that it has nerve growth factors, and that can be very, very helpful. It prevents neurodegeneration by multiple mechanisms. But when you start looking at polyneuropathy, typically that's either going to be diabetes, so we want to get that under control, or some significant toxin exposure, and we want to clear that out. Ganoderma can be part of that as well.
Okay, perfect. And we've had 2 or 3 questions in the chat in regards to the fibromyalgia that you were talking about. Could you go into it a little bit with people that are not having depression or anxiety, so just the fibromyalgia itself?
Well, God bless them for not having depression and anxiety. I think the reason that most people have depression and anxiety is because someone says, we don't know what's causing the problem and we don't have a cure. And if you feel lousy all the time and you think that's your life, well, that would really suck. And that 6-week study showed things significant. But fibromyalgia has a lot going on. If you break down the term fibro, that's like scar tissue, fibrous, myo, muscle, algia, pain, fibrous muscle pain. Ganoderma can help to dissolve scar tissue. It modulates the inflammatory process. It's great for pain. And these people often have energy deficits because their mitochondria, the little organelles in the cells that make 94.4% of human energy, are not working as well as they can. And there's multiple mechanisms by which Ganoderma picks up mitochondrial function as well. And that's proven in elite athletes as well as patients that are really struggling.
Okay. Karen would like to know if mycelium is better than spores for children for focus.
Well, that's the nice thing, is you can try both and see which one they respond better to. I've had great reports for both. My personal bias is towards the spores for a lot of reasons, especially for kids. You can open the spore capsule and it's basically tasteless and put it in anything, and they can take it very, very easily. But try both. See what you get a better result with.
And can you speak to PSA?
Well,
Ganoderma.
Well, I do see now. I look at that written there. PSA. I think of that as prostate-specific antigen, and Ganoderma is actually really good for the prostate. But I see she calls it psoriatic arthritis. So keep in mind that psoriasis is an autoimmune circumstance, and Ganoderma as an immune modulator is proven to, and the medical literature says this, treat and/or prevent autoimmune disease. And the arthritis, that's an inflammatory condition of the joint. It's anti-inflammatory by multiple mechanisms. So it looks like you have a double win there. It can modulate the autoimmunity and take down the pain.
Okay. Do you recommend the same thing for any type of surgery anyone's going for? And they're referring to the 2 spores every waking hour for 3 days prior and 3 days after.
So here's where you get on a little bit of thin ice, because doctors tend to tell people to stop everything before taking a surgery. And remember, this has no known drug interaction, no known toxicity. I had a double shoulder surgery last year, and I took all my nutrients right up to the 8-hour window before fasting. And, I went back at 1 week and the doctor said, I can't believe how far along you are in your healing process in a week. Now, keep in mind that as soon as I was out of surgery, I was taking spores, taking OGX shakes, things like that. And if you do the right thing, and I tell people this, the better you go into surgery, the better you come out. If you're nourishing your body, mind, and spirit with Ganoderma, you likely will go in better. So I can't tell them to do that, but I can tell them I did it.
True. Okay. Jasmine's father is in the hospital right now with COVID. What do you recommend as the best herbs to give him to help return to normal?
Well, I wouldn't just limit it to herbs. So I got a call from one of my students, and his wife was in the hospital on a ventilator. And they said, Bob, would you do a consult with the doctor? And I did. And I went right into PubMed and I typed in Ganoderma. And guess what? We can't name that virus, but there's a Proceeds of National Academy of Science study that shows that it's very effective against that virus. I also looked up colostrum and that virus that we can't talk about, and it was proven against that. And so was vitamin D, and so was vitamin Z, and so was zinc. And I created a regimen. And when I showed the doctor the PubMeds right there, like as we're sharing screens right now, he signed off on all of them and she went home in 2 days. So we're going to go with Ganoderma spores, as many as they can get them. If the doctor will sign off on it, colostrum. And by the way, you can go to PubMed, the same thing, pubmed.gov, type in Ganoderma lucidum and whatever virus you're interested in looking at, colostrum and whatever virus you're interested in looking at, vitamin D in whatever virus you're interested in looking at, zinc in whatever virus you're interested in looking at, and vitamin C. And you will be amazed that there are good medical studies on all of those. Interestingly enough, I posted one of those on my Facebook page and I got slapped for doing it. So, it's pretty fascinating. I have never seen a time where you couldn't share a published medical fact without it being taken down. So, but guess what? The doctor can read the study himself and can say, wow, that could be really good.
Okay. Elizabeth, when problems are drug-induced and not diabetic, example, polyneuropathy, and the rare side effects are permanent, can Ganoderma help, and how would it help?
Well, she used the word permanent. That might be someone's opinion. Remember, if the cells aren't dead, and neuropathy is usually a neuropathic type pain or numbness, but it's not a complete, death or end of the nerve. Then Ganoderma would be really, really good for that because it does help to detoxify. It does help to nourish. It does have to help to modulate the inflammatory process. And it does have nerve regeneration properties as well.
Okay, just waiting for a few people to type in the chat. I'm sure they will come up with some before we end. Any more questions, my friends? Quiet.
Well, Carol, so what's interesting is I don't know how many cups of coffee the average person watching this does, but the average person in North America drinks 3.3 cups a day. So then you look at that and you say, okay, that's over 1,200 doses a year, and every dose moves your body in a better direction. So, it makes sense if you drink coffee or tea, you should drink this coffee or tea. And the call to action is pretty simple. Just go back to whoever, referred you to this Zoom and say, I want some of this. And we're happy for you to get some and try it and see the differences. Now, I do see that, someone asked about a type 1 diabetic daughter. And so one, I'm always hopeful, especially with stem cells now, that we're going to reverse type 1 diabetes. But I am beyond amazed at what my young type 1 diabetic patients have been told. They basically tell them, eat whatever you want, just use your insulin to move things up and down as needed. And I don't think that's a really good idea. Long-term blood sugar control ultimately is what leads to the best outcome for any and all diabetics. So a more of a ketogenic diet is going to be important. Ganoderma multiple times a day is a really good thing. And remember, there's no toxic dose. And Ganoderma prevents the death of the cells of the pancreas called the islets of Langerhans, so the beta cells. And they also enhance beta cell regeneration. So that could be good. And just as much as you can get her to have, but overall diet and healthy lifestyle matter.
I'm just going through a few more here, trying to catch up now. When I ask for them, they flood them in. Okay. 1 second here. Okay. What would be best for things for sight loss?
Well, we have to figure out what's causing the problem, right? That's always the question. So diabetes is the #1 cause of blindness. Then we could actually potentially have macular degeneration. Ganoderma can be helpful for both of those things. Some people start losing their vision when they get cataracts. That's a fairly easy surgery now, and they actually have some lenses that they implant right in the eye that give you 20/20 vision. I had a patient in, I think he's 75 years old. He wore big, thick Coke bottle glasses since he was 12 years old, had cataracts, had the cataract removed, put a new lens in. Now he sees 20/20 at all distances. So eye technology is a long way.
That's awesome. Our friend asks, if a person with a virus tries the King coffee, green tea, or black tea, do you think they would have a bad reaction to it?
I think the virus would have a bad reaction, it's antiviral by so many different mechanisms, but the person, should get healthier. Again, no known drug interaction, no known toxicity, and it enhances health by nearly every way you could think of enhancing health, working on all those major processes and systems.
Can this cause dry mouth?
Well, I actually see that question. It says, and you have Sjogren's. Well, Sjogren's is an autoimmune circumstance. And remember that the literature says it's an immune modulator, meaning it can calm down autoimmunity. And I've seen plenty of patients with Sjogren's over the years who have gotten much better. But everything counts. You want to eat right, drink right, think right, move right, sleep right, poop right, talk right every day. And you want the full nutrition pyramid to start moving you in the right direction.
Do King coffee and green tea cause pressure to rise? I'm assuming blood pressure.
Well, we had a woman who had profound, what they call hypotension. Her blood pressure was so low, and she'd stand up, she'd nearly fall down. Now, in that case, it did wonders to normalize it. But so does it normalize blood pressure? It's known to do that. Would it cause hypertension? No.
Okay. Kat wants to know if an antidepressant medication called bupropion leaves an awful metallic taste in their mouth, also causes vivid dreams. Can Ganoderma lucidum help, and how?
Well, I'm going to go with my standard answer on that. I don't know if it'll help, but it sure won't hurt. So I think that one's called Wellbutrin. That's the more well-known name of it. And I think it's serotonin and dopamine modulator. And Ganoderma is known to pick up 4 major neurotransmitters, including serotonin, including dopamine, including acetylcholine, and including GABA. And it's very good for the brain. The metallic taste in the mouth is usually a toxic side effect. And therefore, Ganoderma is good for detox, but I might also consider maybe a heavy metal detox. Metagenics has a product called Ultra Clear Renew and MetalloClear, and we have plenty of partners. In Canada, Diane Solano is awesome at helping people, get everything they need. So you may reach out to her for Ultra Clear Renew and MetalloClear along with the Ganoderma.
Okay. And it's okay to put Ganoderma in applesauce, I would think.
Spores mix nicely like that. Yep.
I actually sprinkle the spores on my son's waffles before I put his spread on top.
You're a great mom.
Got to get it in him somehow.
Mhm.
Someone would like to buy the toothpaste.
We're working on it.
And some thank yous coming in.
All right. Well, then we'll wrap up like we always do. Tomorrow we have a presentation where we go through the whole opportunity. So you're all welcome to come back to that. Everybody in this group should have access to the Zoom invite. I don't know the Zoom ID off the top of my head, but the password there is freedom. And what a great password, because that's what we're all trying to get, right? And I think the world will appreciate that now. So
I'll have the link in all the chats.
I like to sign off by saying that I know that we can all be happy, healthy, and successful. So good night, all, and God bless.
Night, Dr.
Good night, Dr. Bob. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bob.
Good
Good night. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Dr. Bob.
Thank you, Dr. Bob.
Dr.
Dr. Bob.
Thank you, Dr. Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bob.
Thank you, Dr. Bob.
Thanks, Dr. Bob. Thanks, Carol.
Thanks, Dr. Bob. Thanks.